Good evening from South Florida. Tonight, the stakes could not be higher. Right here on this stage, President Obama will be joining me. The topic, his executive actions on immigration and the furious fight over funding the Department of Homeland Security. Tonight, from the campus of Florida International University, an MSNBC and Telemundo exclusive, a town hall with President Obama.
There are actions I have the legal authority to take as president that will help make our immigration system more fair and more just.
Executive action or executive overreach?
We don't believe that the president has the authority to do what he did.
The president taking questions from the audience in the hall and across the country.
We're still going to have to do more work.
With the future now in the balance for as many as 5 million undocumented immigrants. The legal fight wages on.
That amnesty program has now been declared illegal.
A debate that will shape the Obama legacy and beyond.
Our immigration system has been broken for a very long time. For years, we haven't done much about it. Well, today we're doing something about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States. Good to see you, Mr. President.
Good to be with you, Jose.
Thanks for being here at FIU. Really appreciate you being here with us.
It is wonderful to be with the Golden Panthers.
There you go. Mr. President, let's begin. It's going to be a little bilingual at times, but you and I are used to that.
I can handle it.
Thanks. Señor Presidente, este martes el senador McConnell presentó una propuesta para terminar con el estancamiento en el Departamento de Seguridad Interna. Él quiere votar para otorgarle fondos al Departamento de Seguridad Interna hasta septiembre y al mismo tiempo retirar los fondos para la acción ejecutiva de inmigración. Los republicanos tienen un plan, los demócratas en estos momentos parece en el Senado que están de acuerdo con eso. Usted está esperando la decisión de un juez. ¿Es esto suficiente? Senator McConnell on Tuesday made an offer to break the Department of Homeland Security impasse. He wants to vote to fund DHS through September and then separately vote to strip funding for your executive actions on immigration. As you know, it seems as the Democrats are on board in the Senate. We're 48 hours from the deadline. Republicans have a plan. Democrats seem to be on board. You're waiting on a judge. Is that enough?
Well, Jose, let me start by just talking generally about why immigration is so important and why we've got to fix a broken system. We've had a system for a very long time that nobody's happy with. We know that businesses are being deprived of outstanding workers. We know that our agricultural sector that's so dependent on immigrants is hurting because of uncertainty. We know that we should be deploying our resources and focusing it more on dealing with felons and national security issues with respect to our borders, and not focusing on the mom who's working someplace, looking after her kids, and doing the right thing. And for over 6 years now, I've been calling on the Republicans to work with us to pass a comprehensive fix that would strengthen our borders, that would make sure that businesses had the workforce that they needed above board, not paying them under the table, not depriving them of things like overtime or workers' rights, and that we provided a pathway for people to earn their way into a legal status and ultimately citizenship. And to their credit, members of the Senate passed a bipartisan bill, overwhelmingly, but the House Republicans blocked it. They refused to even allow it to get on the floor for a vote. What I did then was to say, I'm going to use all of the authority that I have as the chief executive of the United States, as well as commander-in-chief, to try to make sure that we are prioritizing our immigration system a lot smarter than we've been doing. And what that means is that instead of focusing on families, we're going to focus on felons. We're going to strengthen our borders, which is what people are concerned about. We're going to build on what we did in 2012 with DACA, which allowed young people who had come here and were Americans in all respects, except they didn't have the proper papers to get legal so that they could continue in their higher education or serving in the military.
They know no other country.
They know no other country. And this approach of executive actions has been used by previous Republican and Democratic presidents throughout modern times. Now, what we did most recently was to expand that so that more people would qualify for DACA. And we also said, if you are the parent of a U.S. citizen or a legal resident, if you've been here for a while, if you're part of our community, then you should be able to come forward, get registered, go through a background check, and if you generally have been contributing to our community, you should be able to stay here legally and not be in fear of deportation. It did not provide citizenship because only Congress could do that, but it was going to help. And I think we saw the reaction in the community. And the truth is, across the country, people recognized this was the right thing and the smart thing to do. Now, unfortunately, a number of Republican governors chose to sue. They found a district court judge who has enjoined, meaning stopped, us going forward with this program. But that's just the first part of the process. This is just one federal judge. We have appealed it very aggressively. We're going to be as aggressive as we can because not only do we know that the law is on our side, but history is also on our side. And in the meantime, what we said to Republicans is instead of trying to hold hostage funding for the Department of Homeland Security, which is so important for our national security, fund that and let's get on with actually passing comprehensive immigration reform. So in the short term, if Mr. McConnell, the leader of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, want to have a vote on whether what I'm doing is legal or not, they can have that vote. I will veto that vote because I'm absolutely confident that what we're doing is the right thing to do. And in the meantime, we're going to continue to pursue all legal avenues to make sure that we have a country in which we are respecting not only the law because we're a nation of laws, but we're also respecting the fact that we're a nation of immigrants. And I'm confident that ultimately people who've been living here for a long time, who have roots here, oftentimes have U.S. citizen children here or legal resident children here, that they deserve to have an opportunity, and that's what we want to provide them.
Señor Presidente, independientemente de lo que pueda pasar con las apelaciones y los jueces, esto podría tomar meses. Estamos enfrentando consecuencias reales y la comunidad tiene miedo, señor Presidente. Esto se debe a sus acciones, en efecto, porque este miedo es por esta incertidumbre. Millones de personas se encuentran entre la espada y la pared. ¿Qué responsabilidad siente usted por esta incertidumbre y este dolor que muchos en la comunidad hispana están sintiendo hoy?
Well, one of the most important things that I think everybody needs to know, and this didn't get enough attention when I made my announcement last year, in addition to expanding DACA, in addition to creating the DAPA program for the parents of Dreamers, what we also did was we said, we're going to change how ICE and our Border Patrol system operates. Because we recognize we're not going to deport 11 million people. And so why we would want to allocate resources in a wasteful way, that doesn't make sense. What we said was, let's prioritize who it is that we're really focused on. We're focused on criminals and gang members who are a threat to our community. And we're focused on the border and making sure the people who've just come, that we are making sure that they are in a position where they understand that they've got to come through legal pathways. But for people who've been living here for a long time, they are no longer prioritized for enforcement and deportation. And so even as people should be preparing their paperwork so that when the time comes that they can apply, in the meantime, understand that the ICE and the border security mechanisms that we have in place, they are instructed to focus on criminals and people who have just crossed the border. If you've been here for a long time and if you qualify generally, then during this period, even with legal uncertainty, they should be in a good place.
And the problem is, Mr. President, that that may be the fact, but where the rubber meets the road, that's not happening many times. Many times, people are being deported that have been here, that have kids, that have a process to even become legal, and they're being deported. So one thing is what you're saying, and another thing a lot of times is what happens where the rubber meets the road.
Well, I think what you're going to be finding, Jose, is that every time that you have a big bureaucracy and you've changed policy, there's going to be 1 or 2, 3 instances where people apparently haven't gotten the message. But if you talk to the head of Department of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, he is absolutely committed to this new prioritization. More importantly, I, the President of the United States, am absolutely committed to this new prioritization. And so families out there need to understand that we are going to be focusing on criminals. We're going to be focusing on potential felons. We are reorganizing how we work with state and local governments to make sure that we are not prioritizing families. And you are going to see, I think, a substantial change even as the case works its way through the courts.